Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Britton's Hangout Hour, episode 93. I am here with Alec from This Alec. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on. It's kind of surreal, like hearing you say that intro and like looking at your drum kit back there because I've watched so many of your chats. So it's kind of
Oh,
surreal
yeah.
to find myself here in it right now.
Well, you flatter me, but yeah, no, the drums are. My mom's telling me, like, when you gonna get rid of them? Don't play them anymore.
You're
But,
not playing them?
I haven't played them in a while, no.
Oh man, you should pick it
Uh,
up.
I know I should probably pick it back up. I was alright at it. But,
That's cool.
yeah, you run a YouTube channel called This Alec, where
I
you
do.
talk about books mainly.
Yeah, just mostly books, mostly books and life. Uh, yeah, and I only have 3 videos on that channel. I think it's 3 now. Um, I need to get some more up there.
Like, you
It's
don't just talk about fantasy, you also talk about, like, books about philosophy and life and fun stuff like that.
yeah. Well, I mean, the channel really, I started it because I was finding myself reading more because of all the great booktubers that I was watching,
Mm.
and I felt like I felt like I wanted to kind of join the conversation in a way, and I also saw it as a way to keep myself reading consistently because honestly, in the past, this is sort of a newer thing for me,
Mm.
just getting into books. It almost sounds silly to say like, yeah, I'm starting to read. It's like, wait, haven't you been reading your whole life? I have, but not like books, not like lists of books. And
I see, yeah.
yeah. And then the Cosmere, sucked me in a couple years ago. And I've been working through that. But now, as I've been sort of like, watching people's booktubes and reading booktube Substack newsletters and things like that, I found myself reading, more widely.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so on the channel, I before starting it, I was really kind of torn whether or not I was going to just talk about the like science fiction fantasy books, that I sort of saw other people talking about, or if I was going to talk about everything I'm reading. And I still feel like I'm trying to figure that out. I don't think I'll talk about everything I read on the channel, but I think keeping it wide is kind of fun. Um,
Yeah,
and
you won't get bored if you read widely. That's what I've learned anyway.
Yeah, oh yeah, as a reader, it's really true. It's like I can sort of pick. I'm definitely a mood reader. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
the last video that I put out, I was kind of going through it the other day to see what did I say I was going to read next. And I think I've read one of like the 3 books that I said because I just kind of like don't know what I'm going to read. Are you like that, Britton? Are you a mood reader, or do you have like lists that you work through throughout the year?
I'm more of a mood reader, to be honest with you, but like there are months I'm like, okay, I would like to get to this book, but I don't
Yeah,
set days, you know.
right,
And
right.
this year my reading's been kind of slower because just so much has been going on, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, mine too. And I've been reading some books that I feel like I don't want to rush through as
I mean,
well, like some
you had
kind
a
of
kid
dense.
recently, didn't you?
I did. I did. I started this at the same time that, like a month after my son was born, which is another thing. Like,
Well,
so
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's amazing. It's chaos, and it's amazing. Right now, he doesn't feel super well. He's got like a little cold. He's a little stuffy, and that's the first time that's happened. So I feel really like you're catching me as I feel like really heartbroken for the little for the little guy. Like
Is he
he's so
is he
pitiful.
is he a good baby? Is he a good baby?
He is, dude. Oh yeah, man. I mean, he's a baby, so he does all the baby stuff, keeping us up all night. But no, I mean, he's adorable. I love him. So, and
that is very good.
yeah, on the reading front, I was reading Oathbringer,
Mm.
like right, like as he was born. Holding him early on. I was reading Oathbringer, and that book is very like sons and father centric. Or it has a lot of
Yeah.
those themes. Hey, you read the Stormlight Archive, right?
Believe it or not, I have not. I have
What?
not.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything else. Anyways, that's. I'm sorry. It does have those themes pretty heavily in it. So my emotional attachment to that particular book in the series, if you get to it. very much stems from that time. Uh, but yeah, I thought so. I thought you had read Stormlight Archive. Have you read any of the Cosmere stuff?
I have not. I've thought
By
about reading
Sanderson?
like Mistborn because that actually
Hmm.
sounded pretty interesting, but I haven't tried Brandon Sanderson yet. I someday
Yeah,
I will.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's funny. It's like so it's so popular, so kind of prolific that I'd assumed that you had read it, but it's like there's this whole other side of fantasy that I'm now getting into finally after only reading Cosmere for a couple of years. Um, so
Yeah, I
I
mean,
and
I
you.
imagine going from like Cosmere to like American Gods or something. You're like, what the hell is this? Like,
It
what?
was wild. It was wild. It's not like I mean as I was reading the Cosmere, I could sort of get a sense for his style and knowing that there were things that were very different than that. But yeah, it was very jarring in a good way. I think that's part of why I loved American Gods so much. That and Piranesi. I read Piranesi. Piranesi was like my first non Cosmere fiction book,
That's another one
like
where you're
in
like,
a
I bet
in a long time,
you started Paranase. You're like, what is this? Like,
dude. Yeah, that book is. So, have you read Piranesi?
I have, yeah, I read
Yeah,
it last year.
yeah.
It's really good.
It's so surreal. It's like a dream. And I didn't know anything about it going in. So it just, it's like a dreamlike experience. I loved it. Um, but yeah, I think you'd like Mistborn, and I think Mistborn's a great place to try out his work for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of the Dark Lord winning actually sounds pretty cool. So that's kind of what intrigues me about it. But yeah,
Yeah,
someday. There's
yeah,
other fantasy I want to get to, like Malazan. A lot of people tell
yeah,
me try Malazan.
yeah. Oh
Uh,
yeah, if you read Malazan first, or Malazan, I don't know how it's pronounced, but if you read Malazan first, I think that one is, and I haven't even started to dive into that series yet, but I think that series is very dense, like very, very, heady. Um, so going from that to something like Cosmere would probably feel a bit like, it'd feel a little jarring, but anyways, yeah, I need to check out Malazan, and I also want to get into Janie Wirtz. Have you read any Janie Wirtz yet?
no, but I have she's been making the rounds on BookTube. I didn't know who she was till
Yeah,
I
yeah,
went on BookTube, and I'm like, oh yeah, she sounds. I read one of her blurbs. I'm like, well, if it's, if her books are like how
yeah,
well written that blurb was, I'll check them out.
yeah, yeah. She's really. I've already watched like 4 or 5 interviews with her, and I still haven't finished one of her books. I haven't started one of her books yet. Um, but she's just fun to listen to talk about, the genre and just writing in general. Yeah, she's got a great voice.
Yeah, no, I mean it's interesting. I've learned that she can do a good couple of things. Like she's a good artist apparently. Like she's done some of the cover art for her books, and
Yeah,
she can play the bagpipes. I looked
she
that up.
rides horses.
Yeah, she right. I'm like,
She's a
God.
legend, dude.
I'm
She's a
like, man,
legend.
she she basically do anything.
I
It's
think
wild.
Philip Chase often says that she's a force of nature. I feel like that's pretty accurate.
he's
Yeah,
he's he's not entirely wrong. But no,
yeah.
I've not read her books yet, but I would like to at some point. I don't know, but again, I don't know. That's another one I'd like to get to is January's.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, War of Light and Shadow. I have actually have it right here. I have Master of Whitestorm here, but it's not like I actually like the idea of starting with this one because it's not her most popular. Like it's not the big series, which is War of Light and Shadow, and
mm-hmm.
so I like the idea of kind of starting with something that's like standalone and yeah, a little off the beaten path. I don't know why, but it just feels right. So I've been meaning to get into this one, but yeah, I've just been reading a little slower past couple months because there's just been so much going on. Just life, just real
Same.
life.
And then also I read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which is a gigantic book. But
Whoa, yeah,
yeah,
that is a huge book. I have that on my shelf over there too, unread. And yeah, so what did you think of that one? So you read that this year?
it's really good. Yeah,
Okay.
it's certain. It's quite interesting comparing it to Paranasi because a lot of people are like, oh, they're not really much alike.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of bugs me when people say that. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I get that they're probably going to be different, but like the difference is very, very apparent. Like Parent
Mm-hmm.
AC is very like, I mean, the styles are a lot different. The storytelling styles a lot. There's a lot of footnotes,
Mm-hmm.
and to be honest,
Oh,
some of my
interesting.
favorite bits are the footnotes. So there you go. I mean,
Footnotes. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
that sounds cool. Yeah, that sounds very cool. So when you say they're different, like you're saying that the writing style,
Yeah,
like
writing style's
yeah,
different. The like
yeah.
just the tone is different.
Mm-hmm. Well, what
Though
is it? What is it that bugs you about when people say that? Is it just that they judge it based on that,
yeah, a
or
little bit.
yeah,
It's also
yeah,
it's also um I don't know. I mean, it's the same author, so like similar things are gonna bleed into the work, no matter how
yeah,
different they might be. But
yeah, yeah, yeah? I've heard it's very Dickensian.
oh
Like
yes,
it's
very much
written
so.
in a sort of yeah, yeah.
Apparently,
Well,
very
yeah,
Jane Austen. Though I haven't read a lot of Jane Austen. I would
yeah.
like to read Pride and Prejudice at some point because a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that's great. So
Yeah,
someday.
I would like to as well. There's like a 12-year-old boy somewhere inside
Though
me
I
that's like,
have
no, I'll never,
though I have
never
seen the
friend princess.
movie, so I know the
Yeah,
story well enough. So it's kind of weird. It's weird.
yeah. No, I've seen the movie as well. Do you feel that way, like when you see the movie for a book before you read the book? Sometimes you feel less motivated to go and like
Yeah.
do the work of like reading a book. Yeah, yeah. Same for me. Honestly, embarrassingly, I have that situation going on with Lord of the Rings.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know it's terrible. I read the first one and then I watched all the movies, when I was a kid.
Uh huh.
And so I need to go back and read the series. But I've seen the movies so many times that I'm like, I know how that goes. I know that there's probably going to be people watching this that are like cringing at what I'm saying
Well,
right now.
it's there's a lot
But
of I mean there are stuff that's expanded upon in the books, and there's also Tom
yeah,
Bombadil. He doesn't show up in the movies.
he's not even in there. Yeah, yeah. And I know all about Tom Bombadil from all the I consume a lot of Lord of the Rings YouTube lore videos. I love lore. I
Yeah,
love
no,
for the things
I
that I
like lore.
enjoy.
You'll like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell then, because like there is a bunch of lore in there, like especially
That's
in the
cool.
footnotes. You know,
Yeah. Oh, very interesting. Okay.
um,
Yeah, that sounds cool. I
I
have
do
a
like the
whole
I like world building. You
yeah,
know.
yeah. Oh man, then I feel like you really would enjoy the Cosmere stuff.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are
Easy.
like, "Yeah, Brandon Sanderson, man, he's a great world builder," and I'm like, "Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll check him out." It's just,
Yeah.
here's these other fantasy and other books I want to go read. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's known for his world building in his lore, like his magic systems are, excellent. Um, yeah, yeah. So I love that kind of stuff. I was gonna say I have a whole stack of books over there of their literal like hardback, leather-bound lore books from my favorite video game, Destiny. It's like that's how much I
really,
love lore.
oh, jeez,
Yeah,
excuse me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. They know that game has kind of deep, deep, deep lore that's like not. It's like famously like not in the game. Like it's in the game, but it's kind of more alluded to. But then there's like pages and pages of crazy deep lore that
I thought you'd say like Dark
yeah, I
Souls or
love it.
something.
They're very inspired by Dark Souls, I think. Bungie. Yeah, I think they are in that way.
I
Um,
don't have the patience with games like Dark Souls. It's just not.
yeah, everyone's hot on Elden Ring right now because the new DLC came out. I saw Talking Story.
Yeah,
They were like
John.
doing a
Yeah, John was
they were
playing it.
playing last night or something. I only got to watch for a few minutes, and it was great to see him playing that and hilarious. Their banter, as always, father and son, is awesome. But yeah, and Sanderson himself has been like streaming Elden Ring.
Oh, has he? Oh, I haven't.
Yeah,
I have watched his
yeah,
YouTube channel. He has a lot of interesting like thoughts
yeah,
on writing. Maybe I'll try him
yeah,
out someday.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, so everyone's talking about that game. Do you play any games? Have you played Elden Ring or anything like that?
Yeah, I've been actually back on the games recently. I've been playing a lot of Red Dead Redemption 2 again because
That's great.
I love that game. I just really do.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I was playing some GTA 5 to kind of decompress because I took a summer class this June,
Oh, nice.
and I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna play and hang out, and then I'm like, I got kind of bored with that, and I'm like, I'll play Red Dead 2. I mean, there's more stuff to do on there.
Yeah. That game has such a good atmosphere.
Oh my
Just when I
gosh.
picture Red Dead, when I picture Red Dead 2, I picture like time around a campfire,
Yeah.
working on my bullets and cooking. Yeah, that game is awesome.
Yeah, I was
After reading Western, All the Pretty Horses.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
it's a good one.
that's all I wanted to do was play Red Dead.
Yeah,
Um,
I read that last year, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good. And it's one of those books that stuck with me for some reason.
yeah. Have you read the second or third in
I
that
read The
trilogy yet?
Crossing this year, which
Okay.
is
Did
probably
you
the
like it?
saddest thing that Cormac McCarthy has done, which is
I
saying a
know.
lot, because his work is not happy by any means. I mean, his most
No,
optimistic book is The Road, and well, I don't know if you've read The Road, but it's a
I've seen the movie.
post-apocalyptic novel. You've seen the
I've seen the
movie?
movie,
Okay, then
and
yeah,
I
you're
yeah.
okay. You're familiar with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, All the
Yeah.
Pretty Horses is really good. It's I love the atmosphere in that. Though I will say it did make me want to like put on a cowboy hat and like sit outside and like put on like old country music and just.
Yeah. I smoked a lot of tobacco while I was reading that book, like probably too much. But there's something about reading that book with a pipe. um, and
Looking like Tolkien, with his big pipe that he had.
Yeah, yeah. And it was in the spring, it was actually like right now where I live, it is hot outside. I mean, it is really, really warm. So I'm not doing a lot of porch sitting, but it was during a nice time. So yeah, I have great memories of that book. I tend to associate books with particular times or moments. I think that's something that I love about reading, specifically reading, like physical books, and e-readers. But what I mean is like I listen to a lot of books too. I kind of go back and forth, and something I love about actually reading off the page is, yeah, it's often it's more than just what you're reading, but it's kind of the whole. So for me, it's setting up a sort of environment for me to read in. Do you do that? Do you have a particular chair or a particular spot where you like to go
Well,
and read?
usually I read in this room, or I'll go into
Yeah.
my living room if I'm like I get sick of being in there. And I have read outside before, but um yeah, it gets real humid in the summertime in Oklahoma, and I don't really like that. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
um
Yeah, it's muggy.
yeah, I went to Arkansas recently, and I got some reading done over there. That was fun.
Nice.
Um,
Nice. What were you reading? What are you reading right now?
well, I'm actually reading a western right now, and it is it
Oh,
is
cool.
it is the other like this one like everyone their grandma tells me to go read, Lonesome Dove. I'm about halfway through.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
it's
I've
really
heard
good
that's a
though.
really
I can see
yeah,
why
I've
a
heard
lot of
that's a really good
people.
book.
I can see why a lot of people love it so much.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm also reading Dr. Philip Chase's Prophet of Edan.
Nice.
I'm hoping I can
I've
complete
got to
it
get into
soon
those.
because he said he's going on a trip, and I really want to talk to him about the book, but
Hmm.
we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. I need to get into that series.
First one was
I
very good.
yeah, so is that the second or that's the second one,
That's the
right?
second one. The third one is
Yeah.
it's on my chair. I don't want to go crawling around in there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So what is the synopsis of Lonesome Dove? Or not synopsis, but like the premise.
The premise, well, basically, so it's a bit of a complicated one because I mean, if you can
Hmm.
see, it's a little
Yeah, it's
thick.
huge, man.
It's
Yeah.
a little thick. So
Yeah.
there's a couple stories going on. So mainly it follows these guys named Gus and Call, and they're former Texas Rangers. They used to be Texas Rangers. Now they're farming out in Texas in this little town called Lonesome Dove. Well, their
Nice.
friend shows up, this guy named Jake Spoon, because he accidentally killed somebody in Arkansas. Well, turns out he accidentally killed the brother of the sheriff of that town, and the sheriff goes after him because he's like justice, and
Yep.
though he doesn't want to go after him, his sister-in-law finally guilts him into going, and yeah, and but mainly it's about Gus and Call going on this trip, or they're going on a cattle run to Montana because Call's kind of sick of being in Texas. And you might think, wow,
Sounds great.
that sounds really dry and boring, but it's actually not. Like the characters in this are great,
Yeah.
especially
No, I mean, it sounds
Gus.
like a Western. Yeah, it sounds like a Western. It's something I loved about All the Pretty Horses was just, again, that like vibe of just like kind of hanging out with these cowboys,
Yeah,
just like they're riding and then they're looking at the horizons, and it's beautiful descriptions of environments and conversations they're having in these remote places, and then the campfire moments, which I think that book did beautifully. Those moments of like Rollins and John Grady,
hmm
just laying out underneath the stars, having conversations, like those types of conversations you have with your friend, like as you're both going to sleep, you know, and
yeah,
the answers start getting slower and slower because the other person's getting sleepy.
yeah,
That's how I
yeah.
picture those scenes, with those two characters, and I just love the way he captured that.
Yeah, I mean, I read All the Pretty Horses, and I would say that Lonesome Dove has a similar vibe to that book, but I think McMurtry has more like heart than McCarthy, because McCarthy just, he likes punishing his characters.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I've heard. I've only read one Cormac McCarthy book now.
Well, then you'll see, and I mean, I
I've
would
seen the
say,
road. I've seen the road,
yeah, and that's
so
like,
I know. Yeah,
yeah, and All the Pretty Horses is one of his more like
and
romantic books too, so that's
yeah, and I've seen No Country for Old Men. So
also really good.
yeah, and also punishing to his characters, big time in that one.
Yeah, yeah. No, he's not
Yeah,
nice to, and I wouldn't say McMurtry's very nice to his characters either. I just read a part where you're just like, oh my gosh, poor guy. So yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of funny because I know McMurtry sort of. It's actually my first book of his that I've read. I've seen a couple of the adaptations of some of his stuff. Like I watched HUD a few years ago. It's based on a book he wrote,
Mm.
and The Last Picture Show, which is based on a book he wrote. Um, but yeah, this is my first actual book of his that I'm reading.
Hmm. It's a big one. It's a
Yes,
big one.
it's a big one, but it's not it's not like oh man, I haven't read Gravity's Rainbow, but I've heard it's difficult.
Yeah, that's a McCarthy book, right?
No, that's Thomas Pynchon.
Oh, okay, okay.
I did
Which
read
one?
Suttree from him, which is pretty long.
Oh, what was that? Which
Suttree.
book? Suttree? Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I'm trying to think about the McCarthy book that I've heard is just brutal, like a brutal read. Um, I'll think of it later. But anyways, yeah, I hear varying opinions on McCarthy's work. Some of it's like, oh, this is masterpiece level, and then other times people, you know, may not like something of his. So he's kind of divisive from book to book.
Yeah, he's not for everyone. I mean he doesn't like use punctuation
Yeah.
or he doesn't use quotation mark. None of that.
Why do you think he doesn't use punctuation for like his
I have
dialogue? Do you know?
I have no idea. I do
Yeah.
remember there's an interview of him or something where he was like, I don't like marking up the pages with stuff,
Huh.
which like okay, um,
It's too many lines.
yeah. I don't know, but it's like
That's weird.
it's weird. Yeah, it's weird. And I don't. He's one of those I don't fully understand.
I don't hate it. There's something about it that like I don't know. There's something about it. It just makes it flow. And it's kind of jarring at first because it can be a little bit difficult to tell, who's talking.
Yeah, I get kind of like I'll get frustrated. Like, I feel like McCarthy's one of those writers you read in stages. He's not really one you like. Don't pick up like Suttree or Blood Meridian.
Blood
Uh,
Meridian. That's the one. That's the one that I've just heard is like a difficult read.
oh yeah, that one. Man, do I want to get in that? No, not right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, I
I
wouldn't
think I was
start with
watching.
those. Like, if you read No Country, like it's pretty easy to read for the most part.
No Country.
Yeah. Though, I mean, if you
Okay.
watch the movie, then you kind of know what it's about. So there you go.
See, there's that thing again of like, oh, I've seen the movie. I know the twist that happens about halfway through, or towards the end. Like
Mm-hmm.
the thing that you're like, what? And so it's not. I'm not as motivated to actually read that book, even though I know it's a fantastic book. I'll get around to it at some point, But I'm gonna read the Border trilogy first, I think, of his work.
I mean, I'm doing a thing. I read All the Pretty Horses last year. I read The Crossing this year, and then I'll probably read Cities of the Plain next year. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's a nice way to break up a trilogy, because then you kind of come back to it
Yeah,
every once in a
no,
while.
it's both of them are very good. I like them both.
Yeah.
Um,
What have you read recently? So that's what you're currently reading. What have you read recently that you really enjoyed? Anything that sticks out
um,
to you?
I did finish Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which
Right. Oh yeah, we
that
talked
was a
about that.
journey. Um, that I don't regret taking. It was a very long journey, but I don't
Yeah.
regret the journey.
Yeah. How long did it take you to read that one?
4 months, because stuff kept
Yeah,
getting in the
long book.
way, and but it was well worth the read. I enjoyed it quite a bit. There's a lot of
Hmm.
great stuff, and I also read this book right here.
The
Uh,
Strange.
yeah, which is like a just like a it's a science it's basically a planetary romance, though it's a
Oh, interesting.
western. It's also a western set on Mars. So
It's planetary romance western
pretty
set on
much,
Mars.
yes.
Okay. Cool. Cool. And I guess the western comes is must be like a science fiction, like future kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
situation. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
It's very old. It's not really well known anymore. If you've ever watched John Carter, like that's a
Yeah.
planetary romance. Um,
Okay.
um, oh, what else have I read recently? Well, I read The Black Dahlia by James Elroy, which is a crime
Okay.
novel. Though
Nice.
I don't know if it's one of his best, but it's still pretty good. It's still that weird
Hmm.
James Elroy style.
Hmm. I think I have a couple of his books on my TBR.
Yeah, no, best book I've read this year though is Kindred by Octavia Butler.
Okay.
I read it with a friend of mine, and it was really good.
Is it
So,
weird for me to look this up real quick? I just want to see it.
oh no, it's fine. Um,
Octavia.
I wouldn't recommend watching the conversation I had with Darko, who I read it with, until you're done reading it, because we spoiled the whole thing. But
Okay. Cool.
if you're thinking about it, if you see my video,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um,
Cool.
but yeah, it's a time travel story. I'm generally picky with
Oh
time
wow.
travel because it can get complicated really fast. But it's really good. The time travel's really good, and it's a really well constructed book.
Hmm.
Just from
Nice.
like beginning, it hooks you, in the end,
Yeah.
now
Looks like it
some
might have some historical fiction kind of stuff going on too. Time travel, historical stuff.
yeah, it's a really good book.
Nice.
I mean, it's not an easy book to read because it's about
Hmm.
slavery, and that's
Hmm.
slavery's not cool.
Yeah.
You'll probably feel indignation more than once in the book. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, it's really quite good. There was a couple books that got close but to a 5 star, but that one's my only 5 star so far this year. I don't give those out lightly.
Yeah, I'm so early on in my reading that like I feel like everything I read is either a 4 or 5 star for the most part, with an exception of a couple books I've read this year. Like everything's just been pretty awesome. So yeah, I always feel like a little self conscious with like how many 5 stars I'm giving out, but it's like every other book I'm reading has been recommended by like 100 people that I respect their taste. So it's like I'm probably gonna like it a lot. Um, but yeah, anyways, it's an interesting element.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works. I mean, there are some people who give out 5 stars a lot, and that's fine. I don't know if I understand them, but like, hey, you do what you want to do.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is like nowadays with it's the internet and social communities and things like booktube, it's like a very different experience than someone like 20 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, who would just go to the bookstore and kind of just like peruse the shelves. Like I go to a lot of used bookstores, and like the my main bookstore, they have a huge science fiction fantasy shelf, like wall wide up to the ceiling, and there's thousands of books, and most of them, if I pull them off the shelf and look them up on Goodreads, are like 3 stars, maybe 2 stars. Like they're not. There's just so much fantasy and science fiction out there that if you were imagine just going to a bookstore without having any kind of like idea about what you were looking for and just perusing, um, I don't know. In some ways, I kind of, in a small way, I sort of like envy that experience a little bit because I think you'd make some interesting discoveries. You'd
Mm-hmm.
find something that I didn't expect that I would like that, or um, But anyways, it's just a very different experience now that we're like scrolling book reads and like filtering by books that are 4 or 5 stars.
No, I mean yeah, we live in interesting times where we have the internet now, and that makes it easier to connect with other people who like what we like.
Yeah, we have VR now. You know, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, like we can talk like this now. It's
Yeah,
it's it's interesting how that all works.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I guess I should ask, what are you reading at the moment, or are you
Oh
kind of
yeah.
are you have you been really busy and not been able to read anything?
No, so I've been doing a lot of listening to Rhythm of War, which is the fourth book in the Stormlight Archive by Sanderson. I kind of took a break from his books for a while, and now I'm back with the Stormlight Archive, and it's been amazing. I'm reading off the page a little bit in bed, so I
Mm.
listen to it a lot while I'm doing stuff around the house, around town, driving and stuff. But then when I get in bed at night, I get about 2 pages in, and I'm out. Um, but yeah, it's been an amazing book. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to share too much because obviously it would be spoilers for books prior to that. But he's doing a ton of like really deep lore world building in this one, so I'm nerding out over all the reveals. It feels like every chapter reveals some other facet of mysteries of his world, and he's just so good at setting that up and making that satisfying. When he delivers those answers and teasing the answers. I just finished a chapter the other day where it was the equivalent of like, you've known about this secret organization for a long time, and I'm finally ready to tell you about the leader, this mysterious character. Chapter 72. It's like dot dot dot, and then it's like now it's the next chapter and it's a completely different character across the
Oh
continent
man.
away, and it's just like no. But that's what keeps us reading, I guess.
Oh, you may like
So
Lonesome Dove then. It does that a couple times, though it's a
yeah.
western. It's not really a fantasy novel.
Well,
But
yeah, just the cliffhangers, they get me, man.
though
They
I've
get
heard
me.
some people call it a I've heard people um recommend it to fantasy readers because
Mm.
it very much is an epic. About
Yeah,
all these
yeah.
characters going on this big journey.
Kind of world spanning in a way. It gives you a sense of a
Yeah, except it takes
epic
place
journey.
in the past, in
Yeah,
1870s Texas to
that's
Montana.
something that like I found myself more and more enjoying. And I heard a comedian joking about this recently, where he was like, he was joking about like how as he gets older, he enjoys history, learning about the world of the past more and more. And he's like, I'm becoming like my dad. It's like realizing that my dad wasn't like just born that way. It's like he became this, like watching World War II documentaries as he falls asleep on the couch. Um, and yeah, I felt that same transformation settling in. It's something about it feels like a fantasy world,
Hmm.
except it's like, but then it's mind blowing because it's like you're reading about or watching a documentary about Middle Ages or like 1700s, and you're like, whoa, I cannot believe they lived this way. And then you realize it's like,
Yeah,
oh, it's
right.
this world.
Yeah. It's
It's like
always that's one of
it's this
my
world where they lived that way.
that's why I was always interested in history. I'm always like, man, I can't believe people used to live like that. Just
Yeah, or think that way, or whatever. It's nuts. Um, it like wasn't that long ago that they started washing their hands, when they were like
well, unless you
operating
were
in a
Jewish.
hospital.
That's why
Yeah.
apparently that's why they got mad at them during the plague. They thought like the Jews started it, but no, the Jews were just good at basic
Oh
hygiene,
wow.
and the like regular Christian or not regular, but the Christian
Yeah.
majority wasn't. They were very
Yeah.
hygienic.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. There's just crazy stuff like that where it's like, how can this be real? It feels like fantasy, but then you realize like, oh, this is actually like the way things have been before. before. It's crazy.
Yeah, people are weird. It's kind of the interesting thing about it.
Yeah,
Even
man.
now, there's still like we still do weird things.
Yeah, we do. Just
Still
because we've always
believe
done it.
weird things.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really true, man. It's very true. Yeah, it's fascinating to see how certain things stick, you know,
Yeah.
over the ages. Um, that's sort of like that reminds me of another book that I read recently that I finished by Aldous Huxley. You know who Aldous Huxley is?
I've only read Brave New
Yeah,
World from him, but I know who he
yeah,
is.
yeah. That's on my list. I read The Perennial Philosophy
Mm.
by Aldous Huxley, and that was an amazing book. It's kind of like an exploration of like what are the commonalities between wisdom traditions and religions over the ages, and what are some of the like malfunctions of those ideas, what ideas have actually prevailed and like forming positive behavior and humanity. And it covers all kinds of really fascinating things, and ultimately you know kind of puts forth that really beautiful uh, perspective on all of that I found inspiring. But yeah, it touches on a little bit of that of like what are certain ideas that stick and why.
Hmm.
It's very fascinating.
Oh yeah, that does remind me. I did read his it's called The Doors of Perception,
Hmm.
which is basically like the weird philosophy book he did after he started taking a bunch of LSD. It's
I
really
think it was
fascinating
after.
stuff though.
I think it was mescaline, right?
Or yeah,
He tried.
mescaline. Yeah, it was some type of hallucinogen.
Yeah, it's mescaline, which is found in these cacti. Um, yeah, it's wild. It's wild. Yeah, his writing about that experience is very. I've read that excerpt, his sort of trip report.
Yeah, no, if I remember right, I think they gave him some mescaline before he died.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I
That's how I
remember
wanted to
reading
go
that
out.
somewhere.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know that I'd want to do that. I think death will be enough of a trip.
yeah,
I don't
probably.
know if I want to be double tripping into it.
Yeah,
but
that'd be a
but
weird way to go
hats off
out.
to him. Yeah, it would.
I would like to read more of Huxley's books. I just don't know where to go because like
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you want to read some philosophy, the perennial philosophy is really cool. And if you're interested in like world religions and
oh
things like
yeah,
that, then
I'll have to check that out.
it'll touch on that. But My understanding is that Brave New World is like it's a novel,
It
right?
is,
It's a
yeah.
fiction novel.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah, kind of like a
It's a dystopian novel.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I've heard it gets a lot of things eerily right about kind of like 1980 whatever it is, that book.
1984. I actually just recently
84.
did a review of that not too
Oh, you
long ago.
did?
I did,
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people say kind of the same thing about that book of like that book is eerily accurate to things that are going on
You know,
today, but
I
I haven't
mean,
read it.
as
So.
terrifying as I think 1984 is, I actually think Brave New World is even scarier because it's not
Even
really
scarier.
it's not really an evil government boogeyman that like destroys us. It's us and our desire
Right.
for, you know, distractions and hedonism and all that.
Pleasure.
Which is, yeah, pleasure. That's a better way to put it. And I'm like, well, if that doesn't
Yeah.
sum up a lot of people, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Sums up me. Yeah, like I mean, it doesn't sum me up every day, but it sums up my tendencies. That's something that's interesting to observe. It's like, how much of what I do is more self-serving or selfish than I realize in the moment. Paying closer attention to that. Like, what are my motivations behind
That's
doing
always a
this or
good thing
that?
to do. That's always a good thing to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Oh, you got a friend there.
Yes, my cat. She was
Nice.
scratching at my door. She's like, "Let me in."
I
So
want a cat. I have a big dog and a little house, so it's not the time for a cat.
yeah, it's probably
But
not a good idea. My dog and cat. Luckily, my dog's pretty small, so they can just kind of chase each
okay,
other around and
equal matched.
yeah.
Very cool.
Though cats are pretty good at like sneaking off and hiding somewhere, so you
Hmm.
know, it's not all bad. But
Another book that I'm trying to get through, but honestly, I've just been distracted from it, is The Picture of Dorian Gray. Have you read that?
long time ago, yeah,
Okay. I'm trying to get through some classics. I read Frankenstein recently. That was my first time reading that
that's a
book.
good one.
Yeah, not really a fun read, but
No,
good.
it's definitely, well, in 18th century, they were very much more long-winded back then, which is
Yeah, I didn't
something that I
even.
was very impressed with Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. She really got that style right. It's very
Mhm.
like there's a lot of diatribes, but like it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
boring. It feels appropriate because like that's just who those people were back then. But anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome to hear that because I was going to say I love the style. Like it could be long-winded for sure, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was definitely there for it because it's just so beautiful and like it's something I did not expect were some of the beautiful descriptions of nature in that book. And
I don't
like,
know if you've ever seen the movie, but like if you've watched the movie and you read the book, you or Frankenstein anyway, you're just completely
mhm.
thrown off because they are
Yeah,
very different.
which movie are you referring to?
Oh, the Frankenstein film.
Like the original
Yeah,
first
yeah,
Universal Pictures.
yeah, the
Okay,
old one
okay.
from like
Yeah,
back in the day.
I haven't seen that movie. But Guillermo del Toro is doing a movie coming out
I've
next
heard
year.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's based on the book or if it's some kind of like semi sequel kind of situation.
I am not entirely sure myself, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do like Frankenstein a lot. The book
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I also like the movie, but book is very good. I really
Hmm.
like and it's quite surprising how well done it is. She was only like 18 when she wrote that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was torn about which version to read. And there were a lot of people like kind of talking about that online and debating which version because there's an 1818 version and then a version Mary Shelley rewrote the book or parts of the book in 1835, I think.
I have only
And
read the
so,
1818 version, I think. So,
yeah, that's what I read as well. But when I first started reading the book, I was doing both. I was reading and listening, and then I started to notice a difference between the two. And I was like, what's going on? Like, is this some kind of abridged version? It turned out the audiobook I was listening to was 1835. So I stopped with that, and I just kept reading the 1818 text. Um, but I'm not sure all that. I don't know that the differences are that huge. I think it's just a few character detail, like Elizabeth, his relationship to Elizabeth, sibling versus cousin versus
Yeah, like his
um,
adoptive sister. I'm not sure what they are.
in the 1818 version, it's his adopted sister, and there's like a romance implied, and it's like adopted sister, but it also is kind of weird.
Yeah, no.
Uh,
Yeah.
in 1835, when she rewrote it, they changed it so it wasn't like she wasn't a sister. She was adopted into the family, but he referred to her as cousin. So I guess that makes it better. It made it better in the 1800s.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, I know a lot of people like to say like the standards were different at the time, but it's true. Like it was.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't really like. I don't really. It kind of bugs me when people try to judge people who lived like in the 1700s in our day, because like just think about it. You don't want to be judged in the future for something that you might not even know is potentially offensive in the future. Like, come
yeah,
on.
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's the whole collective consciousness of human beings has changed vastly in 300 years. So the whole framework for how they were thinking at that time is completely different. It's. I mean, you can even look at your own life. Look back at something you thought as a child. It's not unheard of to look back and be like I was a kid. You know,
Yeah.
in you know
And they
evolutionary
can't like
terms.
defend themselves, so that's always kind of
Yeah,
weird too. It's yeah.
yeah. In evolutionary terms, they're kids, man. Like our founding fathers, they're kids.
Yeah, nah. Yeah, they're
Now
kids.
they were probably a lot smarter and wiser than I am now, but I'm within lifetime terms still a kid, I guess. I don't know if I'm going with that, but
Yeah,
yeah,
it's definitely a it's a slippery slope. I don't really like. It's not something I enjoy talking about.
yeah. You mean the founding fathers?
No, I just mean trying. I just mean when we try to judge people who were in the like you know 1800s and we're
Yeah,
in like the 21st century. Now there are
yeah,
there are some like for instance, I remember when I was a kid and I would see like monuments of like Confederate generals from the Civil War, and I
yeah,
would think like that's weird. Like, didn't these guys
yeah.
like
Like,
fight against us? And then like a
yeah,
few years ago, they started like taking them down, and I'm like, that's an exception. I'm like, okay, yeah, like these guys like literally betrayed our country. Like,
I know, but people have mixed feelings about that.
yeah.
Well, a lot of people say it's destroying history, and I don't think it's destroying history. It's and here I am making a stance on this on the internet, but I guess I'm not really ashamed of the stance. Like, if you're taking down a statue of a Confederate soldier, it's you saying that, hey, the narrative has changed on this a little bit. Like, when this was put up, this person was considered a hero. Now, in hindsight, as we know more, like, this isn't the type of
That was a
person we
bad
want to
idea.
celebrate. Yeah, like, we'll still tell their story, and
Yeah, like you
you
could still
know,
go to like a museum, and they probably have
yeah, read a
statues over
book.
there at a museum, or yeah, in a book.
Yeah, read about them in a book. Yeah, but
It's not
anyways,
like this is funny going back to 1984. It's not like they're literally like telling you to like rewrite the books because
mm-hmm.
they were all
Yeah,
not doing that. But
yeah,
though
yeah,
I didn't really care that they took down Thomas Jefferson's statue, because I there's this quote I heard a while back from this professor who was very well versed in colonial history. She's like, look, there's a difference between the people who built America and the people who tried to destroy America. And I'm like, yeah, that's about how I'll put it. But enough on the spicy. Enough on that spiciness.
getting too spicy.
And too spicy on this show.
That's fine. That's
Um,
fine.
but no, yeah, I just find it weird when people. It's like, look, you don't know what they were like. You didn't live there. You don't know what those people were like. Like, just get a
Yeah.
stick out of your ass.
Totally different world. Well, yeah, hearing that Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell are that book is written in sort of like an old style. That makes me even more excited.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's quite good. I enjoyed it a lot. And the magical elements are really good too.
Okay, cool. Is it a
Um,
little spooky? Is it kind of dark and spooky a little bit?
it is a little bit, especially once you get into like fairyland, which is like, you know, um, oh my cat's wanting out. Give me a sec here. Oh,
No, you're fine.
yeah.
Fairyland.
Um, so yeah, it does because like the fairies in this world, they'll just kidnap people. Just
Cool. Excellent. Are the fairies like human sized or are they little? Are they little
No,
fairies?
like they're like literal people. Like there's this like the main like kind of bad guy is this is a fairy who has like just ridiculous white hair. Or they call it
Cool.
thistle down hair in the story. I don't know what that
Okay.
means, but I guess it just means it's really white.
Thistledown.
Um,
I recently watched. My wife and I watched Carnival Row.
oh yeah,
It's that saucy fairy show on Amazon.
oh yeah. I think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, it's all right. It wasn't bad. I had heard bad things about it, but then we were curious, and I felt like it was a solid B,
I
not a
don't
B minus or B plus,
I,
just a B.
I don't think Jonathan Strange Mr. Norrell's that saucy.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
um, like Mr. Norrell is kind of this. He might drive you crazy because he's kind of this like this kind of crotchety, curmudgeony, just wants to hole up in his house and read books all day.
Cool. Sounds cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna read that one this year. So I finished Rhythm of War, and then I'd like to read some Stephen King this year, and
He's
I
good.
think I'm gonna read The Stand. Have you read The Stand?
I have, yeah. I went on a Stephen King bender in like 2017, I think, and read a bunch of his
Really?
books.
A
Um,
bender.
so yes, I've read a good many of the classics.
Yeah. What's your favorite King book?
Oh man, that's hard. I can't ever make up which one is my number one. It's kind of tied between 11/22/63, which is his time travel one,
Mm.
and it. So it
And
used to be
it?
The Stand, but then I read The Stand again a few years ago, and I'm like, man, that climax really drags it down. But
Oh, really?
aside from that, I
Oh,
mean,
no,
it's a
I'm
great
interested.
book. It's really really well done, but it's
Mm.
yeah.
You didn't love the climax.
Yeah, it's definitely he pulled it out of his ass at the last minute kind of thing. Just read it, you'll see, or maybe you'll
Okay.
like it. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
want
I
to.
mean, a lot of people love it. A lot of people love that
I
book.
don't want to scare. I like to try and keep this. I don't want to scare off people from reading books.
Yeah, yeah. I know, same thing. Like I have read a couple books this year that I didn't love, and then when I go to talk about it on the channel, I'm like trying to strike the balance of like being honest about the book, but also like, yeah, not scare people off from reading it unless it was truly terrible. Um, which I haven't really read anything that was truly terrible. I mean, Akatar got close, but
I haven't read Akatar, and to be honest, I don't want to. Doesn't seem like my
yeah,
thing.
yeah. I don't think you need to bother with it. feel I feel kind of bad because I have some friends on BookTube that are definitely into it, and I keep being told to try the second book, but I kind of feel like if it starts that way, I don't know.
I hate when people do that. They go like, "Oh, wait till the second book." I'm like, I have to trudge through the first one. Like,
Yeah,
so are
yeah,
you
it's like
saying that the first one is bad? Now, if you're like, okay, the first one's pretty good, but the second one's even better, okay, that's one thing.
yeah,
But if you just like get to the second book and then it gets good, like that just I no.
yeah. I struggle with that too. It's kind of like TV shows where people say, "Oh, well, like just get to season three," like
Yeah.
season three through eight are awesome. Actually, skip season six. They had a weird director. You skip that one, but then now I'm just like I'm not watching the show because I want to watch something or read something, where I feel like the whole thing as a package is like worth it, and that the experience of getting through it is also
Yeah,
worth
I've
it.
been watching a lot of. I've been watching the new House of the Dragon, but that's just been kind of. I like it, but there's been a lot of weird decisions they've been making where I'm like, what?
Have you read the Game of Thrones books,
Oh yes,
Song of Ice and Fire?
long time ago. That was a formative read for me.
Really? How so?
Yeah, yeah. I read it when I was just starting to read fantasy.
Mm.
I had always liked fantasy because I read like Narnia and the
Hmm.
Magic Tree House when I was a kid.
Yeah, same.
But like I didn't like start seriously reading it until I was in like middle school, and I was like, oh, Lord of the Rings, oh, Harry Potter, oh,
Hmm.
And then I read Game of Thrones. I'm like, wow, I didn't know fantasy could be that violent and sexual and
Mm.
have these really complicated characters
Heavy.
who really
Yeah.
heavy stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I haven't read those books yet. I have a Game of Thrones on my shelf. There's part of me that's like kind of waiting till he writes the last book before
I
I
know,
start.
yeah. It's
But I've heard people say I've heard people say that they, even if he doesn't put out the last book, that they're like glad that they went on that journey. And that's I can respect that. Like I think the books are a lot of people feel like the books are that good. It's kind of like the opposite of what we were talking about with like series. And
mhm.
people saying, well, like get through this first few and then it's good the way it ends. It's like the inverse of that. It's like, well, it may not even end, but it's worth just reading reading the beginning of it. Um, so yeah, I don't know if you feel that way.
Yeah,
If you
it's
recommend starting it, even if it doesn't end.
I mean, I definitely think they're all worthy of a read for sure. My favorite is still the first one because I love the arc in that book, just of Ned Stark and his journey,
Hmm.
where it goes. And
Yeah.
I do have some like that's actually one of the things I think the show did pretty good was they managed to condense it without losing the feel of the story. Well, before they
Hmm.
went off the rails, anyway. That is.
Hmm.
Um, but I really there are sometimes I think George likes to go on for too long,
Really
but yeah, I do think they're all very good. I think they're all very good writers or good books. What am I
good
talking about?
books. Good books by a good writer.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're watching House of the Dragon,
Yeah.
but is House of the Dragon isn't based on any book, is it? It's just kind of based on the
Well,
lore.
kind of. It's basically a dramatization of this fictional history book that George wrote called
Oh,
Fire
okay.
and Blood.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't know that.
which I read that, which that there's that old there's the first line from Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Though I won't say it was the worst of times, but like that first half is like really freaking good, and then the second half is just really slow. And I was like,
Hmm.
damn, it's like, this is really dry.
Yeah. Well, it is a fictional history book, right?
Well, yeah, and I mean I'll crack open a history book for fun, but like I was like, oh man, this was cracking, and then now you're just kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it'll be interesting to see. Are they staying faithful to that history book, or are they kind of doing their own thing now?
Uh, yeah, they're kind of doing their own thing, really, or I mean, they're following it pretty fine. I mean, the history book is
Hmm.
like it's a history, so there's a lot of room to like fill in dots,
Right, right. But
or
it's
fill in the
not detailed.
blanks.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, it doesn't bother me so much. I am looking forward to the Dunk and Egg show that they're doing. Hopefully, it'll be good.
Duncan Egg.
That is
Who's that
his.
character again?
That's another part of the Song of Ice and Fire world that they're much shorter and more lighthearted than the
Dunk and Egg. I thought you said Duncan Egg. I was like Duncan Egg.
Dunk
Okay.
and Egg. Yeah, sorry.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine.
I remember my grandma sometimes likes to go, Britton, you talk so fast, and I'm like, I I'm sorry.
No, Fluzz. Duncan Egg. Yeah, that sounds cool.
It's like I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. This is how I
Uh,
talk. I'm just talking normally. She's
I think
old.
you talk it.
She's 81. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
I'll give her some slack.
yeah, yeah. If you're 80 plus, I think a lot of people are talking that. I mean, I feel like people talk too fast for me, but
Yeah, it's definitely a we're in a I'll probably when I'm old, I'll be like, "Oh, that's what she was talking about."
yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, what are you looking forward to reading soon? Do you have a lineup?
Uh there are like again, usually how I read books is I am like, "Okay, what do I want to really get to this year?" And like, and I generally try to keep it flexible for myself. So
We're
I'm
about
gonna
halfway through the year.
what? Yeah, I
We're
know, and
about halfway through
I've
the year.
according to my Goodreads here, I've only completed 25 books this year, which I don't know if that's sad or not, but you'd say
Dude,
whatever you
that's
want.
so many books. People on BookTube read a ton of books. You
I
know,
know, yeah. There's
25 books is more than I think most people read in a year.
I know,
Seriously.
there's people I know who've read like 50 books by the time I've only read like 25. I'm like, how do you do that? And I think I read pretty fast, but like, come on.
Yeah. When I first started the channel,
Anyway,
I was basically only spending my free time reading. Anything else, like I didn't really do anything else other than read in my spare time. And that was great. I was in the mood and I'm sure I'll have a time like that in the future, but that's not like sustainable for me. Like I like to do different things. Um, and my free time is quite sparing, with family life and work and everything. So yeah, sometimes I don't read 7 books in a month, and I think it's okay. I think we're all right, Britton.
that's
Oh, but what is on your lineup though for the near future?
well, okay, let's see. I am hoping now before you freak out. This book here, this big book. These are 3 books in one volume, so I'm going to be reading.
Okay,
So hold on, let
it's
me.
huge.
It is huge, yes.
Are you
Thank you.
gonna read the whole thing?
No, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm going to read that. So
Yeah,
that right
yeah,
there.
a book's worth.
So Titus Grown is what it's called. It is the first of the
Okay.
Gorman Goss books. I've wanted to read this for a while because it's kind of the I don't want to say it's the anti Lord of the Rings, but a lot of people who are more critical of Lord of the Rings, like Michael Moorcock, really enjoy Gorman Goss. So I want to see what all the fuss is about,
Yeah,
and
nice.
apparently it's kind of weird and it's weird and um, gothic and apparently also Dickensian. So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll see what it's about. That's one of those kind
Nice.
of like the Border trilogy. Like I might go one. I'll read one a year, see kind
hmm
of how it goes.
What is the first book called?
Titus Grown. Here, I'll type it in a chat.
Titus Grown.
Or hold on here. I'll text it on Titus. There.
That's cool.
I sent it on Discord. So
Oh, perfect.
I'm like, I don't want to pull it out because people are, that's gonna bug me when I screw with this.
Titus
Another book I
Grown.
hope to read in terms of fantasy, Moon Witch Spider King by Marlon James. I'm actually hoping to start that next month. I'm gonna be doing that as a buddy read
Moon
with a friend.
Witch Spider King.
Yes, it's an African-inspired fantasy. It's a sequel to a
Oh,
book,
nice.
or it's a follow-up to another book that I really enjoy a lot called Black Leopard, Red Wolf.
Nice.
Let's see. I'm hoping to read Eileen, hopefully in Christmas, which is by Otessa Moshfegh, which is apparently
Yeah,
like
I've heard of that. Yeah.
it was made into a movie not too long ago, which okay, but
hmm
I want to see what the book is about.
Nice.
Um, Also Hyperion by Dan Simmons. That's another
That's on
one.
my list.
That's
Yeah.
another one. Friends of mine are like, you should read this as soon as possible. What else? What else? Let me look back here. Actually, I
So many books to read.
I know, so many. I'm actually, well, actually, in November, I really would like to read, well, Return to Edan, of course, by Philip Chase. I'm really hoping to get to that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I'm thinking about doing a little thing for Veterans Day in November, so I'm thinking about reading The Things They Carried, because I've wanted to read that book for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how that goes.
That's a good idea.
But apparently a lot of people really like that book.
I don't think I've ever heard of it. I need to look it up.
Never heard of Things They Carried?
Hmm.
Mm.
Looking it up. You're
Good.
Adding a bunch of things to my list right
That's
now.
interesting. It's interesting.
Tim O'Brien.
Tim O'Brien. Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Let's see. What else? There's probably.
Nice.
Robert McCammon's Speak the Night, or I do a thing on October where I basically just read a bunch of horror books. So I'm also hoping
I need horror recommendations. Yeah, I need you to scare me, man.
Oh,
scare me silly.
Well, there's Stephen King. So
yeah. What's his? I was going to ask you this earlier and then I forgot. What is Stephen King's scariest book? Is it Pet Sematary?
I would say Pet Sematary. Either that or one of the Bachman books.
Bachman.
Which is like some of his like early stuff. It's really messed up. Let me think.
Yeah, I'm gonna read Pet Sematary. Although I heard it has to do with a lot to do with kids. And
yeah, I was about to say you just had a kid, so I maybe wait to read that.
Yeah.
Salem's Lot is pretty good, though. I think it does that concept a lot better in terms of what he was doing with that book. I would recommend. Well, I mean, I guess it is kind of horror, but it's also science fiction. It's the Southern Reach books. So these three right here: Annihilation, Authority, and Acceptance. Those are good horrors.
Oh, I didn't realize Annihilation was part of a series.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, it's also another book I'm hoping to read by the end of this year is Absolution, which is the fourth book that apparently he's putting out. So I'm like, all right, yeah, okay.
Oh, cool. Nice. So he's still writing those.
Let's see. What else? For horror. Stephen Graham Jones is The Only Good Indians. I really enjoyed a lot. Also, Mongrels, which I guess isn't really. It's more of a coming of age story, but it has werewolves in it. But I love werewolves, so you know.
Yeah. Werewolves are cool. Mongrels.
Yeah, Mongrels. Though I'd say The Only Good Indians is more of a horror book. Paul Tremblay is really good. The Cabin at the End of the World. I'm sure you'll find it once you look up Stephen Graham Jones because they're very closely aligned.
Nice.
What else?
This is great because I didn't have any horror really on my TBR. So this is excellent.
Well, I mean, my favorite horror writer is Edgar Allan Poe, but he mostly did short stories, so you could probably just look up complete tales of Edgar Allan Poe. You could probably just slap that on there.
I did read a lot of Edgar Allan Poe when I was in high school.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, it was edgy. I have a collection on my shelf.
Oh, all right. Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I find a lot of really great horrors in short stories.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like horror is a great genre for short stories because it can just like set up the spooks and then deliver it. Whereas like in a novel, it kind of has to like carry it for a long time.
Which it's hard to do, which that can be kind of accomplished, can be kind of hard to do, but there's some novels that do it well.
Yeah, and good horror movies are typically, hour and a half or less. There's not a lot of great. Of course, now I can be proven wrong, I'm sure, but I feel like a lot of my favorite horror movies are pretty tight experiences from beginning to end.
What's another? Good. I mean, I don't know if you read comics, but Witches by Scott Snyder is really good.
Okay. Yeah, I do like. I'm reading Sandman right now.
Oh man, that's fan. The Sandman is really good.
Yeah.
it's very good. It's very good.
I'm loving that series. Neil Gaiman is probably my favorite writer so far that I've read on this booktube reading journey. Petting my dog right now. That's what I'm
Oh,
doing off
I
screen.
thought I saw a furry friend.
Let me see if I can pull him up. Say hey, Winslow. No, he's being shy. He's like pulling out. He's like, no, man. He's like, look, I don't consent. I don't want to be on the internet.
Oh man.
You trying to think of more horror books?
Yeah. Let me look at my let me look on my my Goodreads.
Got a little nose.
No. No. So. Well, I have American Gods under horror, but that's a fan. There are some creepy ass moments in that book though.
Yes, there are, dude. Yeah, the lady. If
Yeah.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That part, I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. That honestly, but I mean, there's a lot of moments like that in that book where you just like, I did not know he was going to go there, and he went there, and it's nuts.
Yeah,
I love that about Neil Gaiman
or the
because it's
old
like,
man in that town, in the small Wisconsin town. Yeah, that was freaky. A lot
yeah,
of people
dude.
were like, "Eh," but I'm like, that's one of my favorite parts of the book when he's in that small town.
Mhm.
Like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah.
People are weird.
Well, it's sort of an off kilter ending. There's a big climactic thing that happens, and then it returns to that sort of small town, Southern Gothic vibe again. You sort of like it. It's like a yeah. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it, but it's an interesting pacing thing. But I found it wonderful. Um, the fact that it concluded with that kind of side of things. But yeah, Neil Gaiman's so good at that. He's so good at like,
Combining tones.
yes, exactly, combining tones. That's a great way to put it. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. You think you're on some kind of like sort of fairy tale journey kind of thing, and then like someone gets shot in the head,
yeah.
or something like that. Um, yeah, it's pretty wild. I read Neverwhere recently.
I have not read that yet because I'm a little nervous with that book because I'm like, oh man, is this just gonna be like it's gonna be like American Gods, isn't it? I'm just gonna be like, this is like American Gods. I'm gonna shut this. Like this.
It's
But I've heard it's good. I've heard it's good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's not as good as American Gods, but I thought it was fun. I thought it was pretty funny. He was actually, I feel like, flexing his humor muscles there a little bit.
I'm remembering a short story now. Harlan Ellison did a
Harlan
story
Ellison.
called "I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream," which is probably one of the darkest science fiction stories I have ever read. So
I have no mouth and what?
here, I'll type it in Discord here. I no.
I'm looking up. I have no mouth, and I must scream. Oh my god.
Yeah, no. It's really like it's really messed up.
Yes.
Um,
Nice.
oh
Harlan Ellison.
yeah, and a boy and his dog is pretty disturbing too. That's also
Big Sam Was My Friend is another one of the small stories in that collection. Cool. Well, I feel like you've given me,
yeah.
as per
I hope
usual, man.
I've given you one. I'll give you one
Dude,
more.
you've given me more than one. As per usual, spending some time on BookTube,
I'll give you
I
one
walk
more.
away with my
It's
TBR.
a comic. If you like Sandman, there's
Yeah.
the Saga of the Swamp Thing by Alan
Mm,
Moore,
I've heard good things about that.
which is basically, if you read it, you'll see where Neil Gaiman kind of got some of his ideas that he would later play with in the Sandman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really
Alan Moore,
good.
yeah.
I mean, it is a mainstream superhero comic, but it's very different. It's very much like
Hmm.
it's a horror at first, and then it turns into like a dark fantasy. It's really quite good.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
Alan Moore, did Alan Moore write Watchmen?
he did. Yeah,
Okay, I love Watchmen. That's that's probably my favorite comic thing I've ever read.
Yeah, I mean yeah, I mean I own it, but I don't want to get it right now. I do really want to try his like big gigantic novel Jerusalem. I'm just really scared of it. It's so big.
Yeah, yeah. I just added that to my TBR
It's
recently
so
because
big.
I didn't know it existed, and then I watched a video about it, and I was like, I've got to read this.
It's like, oh, it's so
So,
big.
yep, the TBR grows. It's huge. I mean, at the beginning of this year, it was in the 50s, and now let's see, how many books do I have in this list? Yeah, 242. I need to stop adding books. I need to stop. But,
But
it's
yeah, no, hopefully I've given you some good stuff to check out.
you have. I just added like
or
5 books to my
some
TBR
good
today.
horror
So
books to
thank
check out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Man, well, it's just been great chatting with you, man.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. As always. Yeah. Anyway, probably there's probably so much more we could say, but I don't know. Let's just see where
Yeah,
it
man.
goes. Unless you need to go or something like that.
I do need to go soon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I
I
know
do
you
need to
said
go
I know
soon. I
you
need
said you
to.
had like an hour, a little over an hour is what you said. So I wanted to be
Yeah,
respectful
yeah,
of that.
yeah. All good. Yeah, I've got to switch over to dad mode here pretty soon and make dinner and get the boy ready for bedtime and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So,
I'm probably gonna get a haircut soon. So yeah.
oh,
Um.
nice. Gonna
Yeah.
go on down to the barber, or you do
Mm-hmm.
it yourself? I do it myself in the backyard. I like squat down like Gollum
Yeah,
in the
I've thought
corner of the
about doing
yard.
it. I have done it myself before. Well, I've had my aunt do it because she can
Yeah,
cut hair.
yeah.
But
It's
anyway,
economic, but yeah,
but
you
Alec,
you can't see the back of your head.
no, it's very like I just a lot of people might say it's not that long. I'm like, well, it feels long.
Longer
Anyway,
than you wanted.
anyway, I won't stall for too much longer. Alec, thank you for coming
Oh,
on.
good
I've,
man.
I've appreciated
Yeah,
this a lot. It's been fun.
yeah, yeah. It's been great chatting with you, man, and I look forward to watching more of these chats, and maybe we can do another one someday.
Yeah, that'd be fun. As I like to do before I leave, if you have any like social media you want to promote, feel free.
Just the YouTube channel.
Just a YouTube channel
Yeah,
right now. You don't even have
yeah.
Goodreads.
Oh yeah, I do have Goodreads. I have Goodreads, and I'm this Alec, this underscore Alec on Goodreads. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, friend me over there, and you can send me messages or on Discord. I'm on several of the BookTuber Discords out there. So yeah, yeah, would love to connect with people online, and yeah, man, let's do a buddy read sometime.
Yeah, that would be
Let's
fun.
pick a
That'd
book.
be fun.
Yeah, yeah. Send me a message, and we'll figure out a book to read together. We both haven't read Malazan, so maybe that's
I'm
a
I'm, think,
call,
I'm I'm thinking
or maybe
maybe
something
next
lighter.
year. I'm thinking maybe next year I'm gonna give Malazan a try. Maybe I'll text you
Cool,
about that.
cool,
Uh,
cool.
but
Yeah,
yeah. Anyway, thank you for coming on. No, seriously, man. We should do another
yeah,
one of these sometime.
yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion, and until next time.